So, welcome everybody to the Ortelius and Emporous architecture meeting. Let me grab the link and you can sign in. I'll drop that in chat.
Steve, you moved that brown box behind you.
Oh, yes. I try to keep
get some
my
decor tips.
yeah, I try to keep my office clean, but it never works. All right, so there's the link to the doc. Looks like we have a couple new folks. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? We have Julia and Lori. I know, Julia, you gave a quick intro the other day.
Good morning. My name is Lori Gray, and I'm based in Denver. And Kate and I work together. I'm in cybersecurity. I'm actually on a sabbatical right now. And she asked me if I'd be interested in learning more about your project and your initiative and seeing how I might add value. So I'm really excited to be here and learn more about it.
Welcome
So thank you.
aboard.
Thank you for the invite.
Welcome.
No pressure, but she's super bright.
Well, that just
Steve
means
likes to initiate people
we
by
just need
making
to
you
give her
read
more work.
700 lines of Java code. You have to read it all and then recite it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely bright, but bright in different areas. Java code and I know Java, but I don't think that'd be a really good use of your time with me.
Would be funny though.
Go ahead, Julia.
All right, so let's see if I can get things right this time. Okay, so data scientist, I'm interested into the OPSEC, and I have been experimenting with microservices, but currently just playing with business analytics and everything I can find within the infrastructure of the data to make the dots match. So basically, just looking for answers and to see what can I do to help you out. So
Sounds
thank you.
good. Thank you. All right, so let me share my screen. Welcome everybody. You find sharing. It's disappeared on me. So we're just going to kind of continue. I dropped the link to this doc in the chat, so if you can jump in and go ahead and sign in. So I don't think Raj is on, but Raj went through and finished up after our meeting some of the developer persona needs as well as the executive.
Oh yeah, I'm here. Hi, Steve.
Oh, there you are. Thank you, Raj, for adding those in. And we could always add to these; they're not fixed in stone. So what I'd like to do is take our personas and kind of map, because there's overlap between each one of these personas, on what the data that they're looking for and how they want to kind of view the data, and kind of pivot this whole persona list into some high level needs as far as like a UI UX layout. So for example, if we look at a DevSecOps person, they're going to want to have more of the in the weeds type of needs, where they're going to want to dive down into the really low level details. So in the weeds details, I would actually put the DevSecOps person. as that type of person that needs that type of information. Where's bulleting?
So Steve, what would be an example of in the weeds?
In the weeds, like I said, if we look at like auditing, threat hunting, finding exposures, that detailed type of stuff where you really want to go as low and as deep as you can into the data.
I'm still after, what would that be that would distinguish a developer from, say, a threat hunter? Or is it the same?
It would be the same.
Okay, now I'm with you.
So, yeah, let me just do this real quick. So, for example, the data that a developer needs may overlap with the data that a SecOps is going to need. So that's what I mean by in the weeds type of detail. But from kind of what we talked about last week, developers don't always want to know all the gory details, so they may be middle of the road. So we may need another category here that could be a little bit higher up than in the weeds details, but below a summary level.
So an example would be, show me all the detail we have on record about a particular library.
Right.
At the other extreme, show me the name of the library, who we got it from, the date we added it, and maybe a line that says what it's for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm
what
just
I'm
concerned that when someone tries to code for in the weeds, I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, once we get the personas kind of mapped out to the different categories, for lack of a better word, then we can go and see look at the data and see what data overlap there is. So basically, what I'm trying to do is take our personas and kind of map out kind of the navigation of what people are going to go look for in Ortelius. And then once we know what they're going to look for, that we can figure out how to present that information to them. And there may be two different routes. You know, like I said, a developer the in the weeds details for a developer may not be quite the same data overlap as a SecOps, but we need to make sure that we're going to give that navigation type a path for either one of those, a developer or a SecOps person.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Does that make sense what I'm trying to achieve? Okay. So what else? If we kind of go through, I think the easiest one to start with, because we have a lot built out around them, is the SecOps. In my view, I think the cyber threat and hunting and finding the risk exposure are kind of in this category, in the weeds details. But do we think a SecOps person would need some sort of summary as well? Maybe the goals or audit. Would an audit come in as a summary item or in the weeds item? Any thoughts?
I think the audit is more for summary. So for me, working with auditors, it's usually, you start with, a particular CVE, like, you know, this occurred on this date, and you just have to show the entire summary, literally, of when it came into the environment until it was remediated. And people on the call might have had different experiences with auditors, but
So my experience has been, they're gonna want to start with a summary. And then they'll pick things somewhat at random, or maybe they have a plan that says, take me deep on this one. You know, I want to pull the report on, use the one we always use, log4j.
Yeah.
I want to see the detail on every single application that uses it.
So I'm going to put in another category here. Basically needs summary with drill down.
Yeah, I think that would apply to many. I don't know. Kate, and Julia, what all you guys think?
yeah, definitely. You know, when you look at the, you know, the store products, right? They always have, I mean, they're pretty detailed as far as, you know, when something comes in, the vulnerabilities, when they're going out, the notifications to, you know, different parties that need to be involved.
Now, when we talk about this drill down, they're not going to pick and they're going to pick a specific item that they want to drill down into. They're not going to want to drill down into 1,000 different packages, for example.
No, there's no time.
Right.
It's more like, you know, when you walk out of a big box store and you have to have your receipt, you know, it's more like a quality control type of, you know, oh, I checked.
Yeah.
At least that's what I've seen.
And would we have goals over here? That the goals, whether I'm achieving them, that's going to be more at the summary level, right? Like my high level goals.
You know, that's a good question for me, in that out of what we have to choose from, yes. But I would almost think of it as a business leader, as a CIO or director, CISO type of, where we're trying to keep the environment safe as, you know, a big goal.
Well, do you think a goal would maybe fit under risk or trends?
That's what I'm sort of wondering. I don't know if anybody.
And this list here I just came up with. We can add more, we can take out, we can reword it. So I just put them out there as a placeholder.
Yeah, good placeholders. Yeah.
So do you think
I think trends are really good, absolutely, because you want to trend towards a positive, right? In the environment, we want to try to get better and better for security.
yeah.
Do you want to like set a baseline of like eventually only having like, I don't know, orange vulnerabilities only and get all this red and whatever, something like that? Well, let's say yellow warning. I don't know. I'm just using colors. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a good idea, Sasha.
So that's where I'm.
Is that what you mean goals? Is that what you mean by goals? Like, hey, we as a company want to hold our we only want to have as our base yellow.
Yeah.
We're okay with that risk.
Yeah.
The company's okay with that risk of only having yellow, and we want all the others orange, red, out of control.
Yeah, we want those taken care of.
We want those taken care of.
So the way Sasha's kind of framing it, it kind of goes back to a summary level for goals.
Yeah. We can cross over though, no? We can.
Yeah, we can put it in both places.
Yeah. Because at the end, I mean, we don't want to have separated boxes, right? We want to be as integrated as possible, I would think.
Yeah, and that's part of when we start building out the UI UX design, making sure, each one of these high levels could be a menu item, for example, of how you navigate to get to your risk, how do you get to your cost, if you want to navigate to your trends. And we just want to make sure that our personas are being satisfied by those choices that they make in the UX.
Yeah.
And kind of the same with monitor and detect. So they're basically our overall health. I think that kind of falls into both categories as well.
Definitely.
Because we kind of want to watch we want to, on a trend basis, we want to see how well we're doing. We're getting better over time, or we're getting worse. Hopefully we're getting better. So that kind of gives us that historical point of view.
Yeah.
Just only security, focusing on security. So not like code quality and any of those things. This is just purely DevSecOps and that type of thing.
Yeah, so
No.
I'm sort of wondering what you're going to trend.
Yeah.
There are multiple things that we can trend. Right now we're just talking about security stuff, but like Sasha said, we can do code quality. So in our list here of personas, we don't have testers. We don't have a QA or a project manager persona, and I don't know if we need that. We may need to add a director, a developer director, or or developer manager as another persona.
But
I'm
does
gonna look for some AI personas. Funny.
But does our, and I just realized I'd covered my camera, which most of you probably appreciated, but
I wasn't going to say anything, Tori.
does our, those were thumbs, by the way, does our data structure support trending?
Yes. Yes, because especially with the XRPL blockchain ledger, every single change that's made is an immutable ledger entry. So we have that data, and our versioning engine as well has that data for trending because it's all historical.
So we could show things like how frequently is this library updated?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how we get it code quality, but
code quality comes in from other third-party packages.
okay.
So we gather the data from those packages and consolidate it.
Okay, so we really want to stay focused on the fact that Ortelius is an evidence store, which may store things we haven't even thought of at this point.
Exactly.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
So on the trend side, I would say that the corporate risk person would want to see trends. Are we? Let's see.
I'm thinking of what trendy and what. But if we think broadly, I don't think it matters. If we provide the capability, people may choose to use it, and that's a good thing.
I can recommend one thing, like in threats, it's usually about like ransom numbers are pretty widely available for malware attacks and cybersecurity threats. So the last decade, what kind of ransomware has been popping up? Are DDoS attacks going up? How many losses in terms of dollar terms have been happening? Just stuff like that could be useful.
Right.
Yes, for
So
me, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
For me, trends will refer to what Raj just said, kind of like just the cybersecurity attacks, but also I'm seeing the side of a developer, like what platforms, what software we're implementing. Because if they're using Ortelius just for specific platforms or the most current ones within our architecture and what we can support, then we need to cover that within the benchmark, which will show in the trends. So we have the pure development cycle in there and also the security aspect.
Right. I'm just gonna put that as a placeholder.
Yeah, that's really
And
good.
and we can build out the trends once we dive into more of the data that we have that we can trend on. But from a persona point of view, I would say that probably the executive as well. They want to see trends as well in a cost perspective. Typically, they always think in dollars. Do you think anything from the developer? So would a developer care about trends?
Hmm.
I think
What type of trends
developer care
then?
more about the logs and traces.
Which one, Arvin?
The logs and traces.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
I think that's going to be more in the weeds for a developer.
Is it on an SLI or O level? Like the application's response time for example, customers? Would that be a developer seeing that going up or down?
We did not list anything. It could go under corporate risk. We didn't do anything around SLAs, SLOs.
Okay.
So I think that a
Uh,
developer may be interested in change, but not necessarily trends. So what's the difference between the configuration of my software today than it was 10 minutes ago, because now something's broken? So while it's not necessarily trends, it's definitely looking at the changes.
So I'm gonna put that down as in the weed details, changes. And I think they're gonna want some of that. So do we think a developer would be doing any threat hunting themselves, or are they going to be more on the remediation, mitigation, or definitely on the remediation side?
Didn't they start in their IDE already with some proactive extension, just telling them in their code already before it even before it even gets to a repo, for example?
Right. Yeah, we wouldn't know about that because we're post commit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's true.
I think that well, I'm going to put in remediation as well for the developers.
Yeah, remediation is true because you would just use like you're using that renovate bot, for example.
Mm-hmm.
That's remediation, right? Auto generating those PRs.
Yeah,
And then they make the choice.
And then let's say there's a CVE that requires them to make some coding change, to not necessarily like a renovate and bump a version, but remove a package and use a different one altogether.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And like Arvin said, the monitor, they're going to want details about the typically logs and traces.
Yeah, logs and traces is a good one. Then.
And other in the weeds details that we have, it can be API and documentation. Raj, what did you mean by this one?
Oh
Trust.
yeah. So like developers are biased towards implementing solutions which have already been implemented by other developers they respect a lot. So in fintech, I've noticed my developers would just be copying uh, that Stripe has implemented or Amazon Pay has implemented during when they are implementing their wallets.
I probably copied your code, Raj.
Thank you. That's a huge honor. So yeah, just the way investors look to invest in a company, if the company has received money from one like Sequoia or Axel, that way developers will implement those libraries or implement a solution if another company has already implemented it and it worked for them.
Right.
Oh, so we are looking into case studies over there. Okay.
Yes. So like recently, a couple of startups wrote case studies on moving from cloud to internal servers, like stopping using AWS and saving a lot of money. So suddenly there is a whole movement in Indian startups that we should not use cloud. Let's do everything on premise.
Right.
Yeah. So just popular case studies like they catch on fire very quickly.
Is there a way that we could do some sort of comparison between what a developer's doing and a big company is doing? Is that information available?
So if it's an open source package like GitHub, then just the number of stars on a repo. If it's if the case study is on a message board, then the number of reactions on that case study on that platform.
Right.
Just one of these two numbers is a good indicator of how likely the developer is to trust that.
Yeah, what I was thinking of is, so I ran into this with the Persia project. They were using Ethereum blockchain, and the Ethereum blockchain for Rust lagged by 6 months than the Node.js version of it. So in that case, the Persia project wasn't picking the right implementation, or a more popular implementation, because if they would have gone with Node.js, they would add fixes faster, those type of things. And I'm wondering if we could do something at that level for the developer. Does that make sense?
A little bit, yes. I don't know the how to do this, but
Yeah,
what it was is very clear.
right. Let me think about that one a little more on how we can do that. Okay.
Can't we do something like that? That a developer or the DevSecOps person can create their own personalized dashboard. Like we create the components and we can give them the option to enable or disable it. So we don't have to we don't have to worry about that stuff.
And what
So
do
something
folks
like
what do folks think about that that concept of customizable dashboards?
because what if like a developer is interested in some security stuff? You want to look into that.
Yeah,
I
actually,
know
that's quite trending.
I know it's good for DX, but we have to also like check like some of the data they are only interested in it is of no use to them.
Right. So
Yes.
the other way to do that is so you can you have customizable dashboards, or you can have ability to hide.
Yes. So we can create each component for each features, and we can and user can enable or disable it.
Yeah. Because I've found some of the customizable stuff. Personally, I find it annoying. You know, you get a blank screen and they say drag all your widgets out here, but I have no idea what the widgets do, and especially when you don't have any data at the beginning.
Exactly.
That's generally a pretty bad approach to it. A
Yeah.
customizable screen with some reasonable defaults and say,
Yes.
oh, move this thing up in importance. Don't show me that. That makes sense. But no, you don't want to give people a blank screen and hope they can work it out. They'll move on very quickly.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay.
But for that, we have to do a lot of effort on the front end side.
Yes. This could be a huge cost. That's why we'll have
Yes.
to, from a development perspective.
Yes.
Aren't there tools that will support that though?
Kind of. You get bought into a framework.
Oh, yeah.
So the frameworks make you play in certain paradigms, and if you go outside the paradigm, or if you have a need to go outside of the paradigm, it's very difficult. So we can look at it. If we decide that's something that's really important, we'll have to dive into that research then.
It would be really cool, but it would be hard.
Yeah. So we have a persona over here, the SRE, production control release management. Do they
Before we move on from the
Yeah.
previous one way to handle that is simply provide an export. And the most straightforward way is, let people select some fields, dump them into a CVE, and then they can do whatever they want.
The only problem with that, it actually becomes pretty crappy, meaning, as you know, Tony, those spreadsheets are this can become a nightmare.
Oh, sure. There's things they could choose to use instead of a spreadsheet, but I think what you're doing is saying, we're not going to make this our problem. If you want to do that, go for it. But we don't have to decide that now, but there
Yeah.
is an issue of someone in one of these roles saying, I'd like to extract this data into a reporting tool I choose to use.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Needs to export data. So well, we can fill in who that may be. Maybe that's under the summary.
Probably, because a lot of places have some preferred business intelligence tool,
Yeah.
and they don't want to have to learn a new one. Just give me a way to feed it.
Right. And that could kind of fall into both at the summary level and at the trends level.
Yes, because we could cover portability, but also within the case scenarios, can I give recommendations based in our intel and what are most trustworthy developers and customers have experienced, so that we have a more reliable recommendation to offer them. So it
Right.
will make more sense.
I'm going to leave export data separate for now, and then we can see if we need to combine those later. Anything else on that topic? Okay, now we're into the SRE, production control release management. Do we think those folks would ever be using Ortelius, and how? Because we have them as on the reactive side.
In a really disciplined environment, they would take the release notes, compare them to what they also might have in their reports and say, no, 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 you used a library that we aren't permitting in production.
Yep. So do you think that would be what you described, Tony, more of at a summary level, or in the weeds where they want to see the changes, or both?
Well, for production control, they're probably just gonna have a checklist.
Yeah.
You're using version 1.0.0.2, and we don't permit anything below 1.1 in production. You know, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I will tell you, my experience has been in, you know, lots of places just aren't that disciplined.
True.
I saw one where they changed the direct reports to the CIO's bonus plan based on reducing unplanned outages. It was amazing how disciplined they got.
Yeah.
Look for the money,
Whoop.
for the money.
And I lost what you just lost the thought here. Oh, and they want to compare. Okay. So if I got that right, they want to restrict based on the audit, and then they want to be able to compare one release to another release to see changes. All right.
Well, you know, generally speaking, again, a really disciplined shop will look at your release notes compared to their problem log. But as I said, most places are simply not that disciplined.
Yeah, and that could be a data point, because it really gets back prior to where we kind of pick up. So we pick up at the kind of like the git commit level, and before the git commit level, you have your whole project planning process. You know, what's going to be in the sprint, how is that tied to a story or an epic and all that stuff, and when this release gets delivered, what are the stories and epics that are actually associated with that release. That's kind of pre us. Doesn't mean we can't bring that data in, but I've kind of made the cutoff point at the git commit level.
This is about adding checks and balances, though.
Mhm.
We should pick up from the commit based on what's actually there. And if I'm the person who's, you know, mega bonus depends upon not having outages, I'm probably going to want to make sure that I look and say, you haven't failed to address something I was concerned about.
Right.
Like this library is no longer permitted because there are CVEs that point directly to it.
Yeah.
And so I want to see what you committed. I think the capabilities will already be part of what Ortelius can do. I just think it's another thing that we can assert, which is we give you a way to validate that what's getting into production is not something you don't want to be there.
Right. We'll have to figure out how to, when we talk about validate, what that actually means. But I get what you're saying.
I'm thinking data hygiene practices.
Yeah, especially on we haven't even talked about ML ops, but there could be corrupted models that can be coming across, or out of date models, as the data has been coming, the data that's being collected from production, and the real data and the model are drifting because the model needs to be retrained. That's going to be another possibility.
Drinking coffee.
Hmm. What was that last one?
I heard coffee. It sounds like coffee.
Yeah,
Sounds
and-
good to me.
Coffee.
But what Julia said, I think,
Yeah.
you know, the exact way.
I'll have to think about that a little more, where we can, how we want to address that. We got like 15 minutes left. So let's see, we have in the weeds. So far, the two groups that we have in the weeds are going to be the DevSecOps, the DevOps folks, and developers. The summary level, we kind of have that same group plus the SREs. And then we have the SecOps really having to be able to drive down from the summary level into the details. Do we think developers would be doing that same type of functional, where they want to go from a summary into a detail? I'm going to say yes, because that kind of makes an easy navigation point.
I would say you want essentially any summary to have the ability to easily drill down.
That's what this is kind of showing as part of this exercise, is what we would need
Also,
to do. Yeah,
also,
Arvin.
there is one thing that we have to rate alerts to each of them. That which one is more like compatible with the alert system.
Right. And that's, once we get this down, then we can start ranking which ones we want to focus on. So, for example, if we want to get the next release out the door quickly, that we focuses on the summary and in the weeds, or summary with drill down and in the weeds, and we punt on trends for another point release, for example.
Yeah, because in the first point, the pipeline will fail. So the first alert should go to the DevOps guy. Then
Mm-hmm.
he check that there is a development problem. Then he asks the developers.
Yep,
I think
exactly.
that will be the flow.
Let's see, goals. We kind of put goals into trends. And the unapproved, we decided that was going to be in the summary, and also so we decided that the DevSec ops persons and the SREs are both in that case. They want to know when something's unapproved. All right, corporate risk, those folks. Obviously, they're going to be in this category. But what do they want to focus on?
So if I'm a risk person, I probably want to say, I want to run a list of my components against CVEs, for example. Now, I don't know you expect to necessarily do that within Ortelius, but I pull out of my evidence store known components, including dates and provenance, and I want to cross map that to what are the known vulnerabilities?
So the way I'm kind of interpreting what you're saying is they want the summary information, but at a corporate level. So they'd want to be able to say in either in my whole corporation, this is my the biggest vulnerability that I have that I need to address. Is that a correct way of thinking
I'd
about
say
it?
within my area of focus. So it might be the entire corporation, but maybe I'm the person that pays attention to Chevrolet as opposed to all of General Motors.
Right.
You know, so I don't want to see all this stuff for every other division necessarily. Or if I'm in a bank, I want to care about the credit cards, but not the mortgage business.
Right. So would that be a division?
Just it's an ability to constrain the report to some area that makes sense to the organization. So that says in the data store, we have to be able to say something about where does this apply?
Right. I'm just gonna divisional. So it's like a degree of roll up higher. Oh, here's corporate risk. So anything else we need to, because this kind of overlaps with cost as well. So cost to fix, cost of ignoring. What else do we have? Then cost to mitigate. And I'm going to put that on as the executive as well. Any other? Do you think an exec would be worried about risk, or do you think it would go to corporate risk and then they would create some sort of report and then give it to the exec? Or do you think an exec would be, and that goes on both of these. Do we think a CIO or CTO or CEO would ever be logging into Ortelius, or would the corporate risk person be generating that report and giving it to them outside of Ortelius?
Well,
I-
anybody whose compensation is based on stock price movement is going to care about risk. Are they going to log into Ortelius? Yeah. Most of them probably not, would be my view. I don't know, Julia or anybody else?
I feel like when I've spoken to C-level folks, whether they do it or not is one thing. Being able to say yes to them has always been like, yes, you can do it. Whether they do it or not is a whole other thing, but that's
There is
usually,
also one thing, that what is the occasion when they have to they want to use Ortelius. Like once any pipeline will fail, they got an email, and in that email, if they want to open the logs, we can redirect them to the Ortelius. Or if they create a major release, they want to see the release summary. In that way, we can redirect them to Ortelius.
and I will tell you that what would be really nice, actually with risk in the executive branch that we're talking about, it would be nice to have that a simplified view. I mean, not to have everything so complicated,
Right.
Well,
Yeah, I
consider in the
agree.
event of an incident, there is in the US anyway, a requirement for disclosures, probably like a 10K or something, to the Securities and Exchange Commission, who are probably going to say, did you know about these vulnerabilities in advance? Did you warn your shareholders? So at some point, somebody's going to want to answer those questions, because if they don't, here comes a big fine.
Yeah.
Right. Would that the question would that be the corporate risk person doing that information gathering, or would it be the CEO doing that information gathering themselves?
Well, no, the CEO is not going to do it personally. The CISO and the risk organization, auditors may look at it, legal may even look at it, because, as soon as you invoke, somebody who can impose penalties on the organization, a whole bunch of people get interested, but I doubt seriously CEOs of an organization of any size are going to personally get on the Ortelius dashboard.
Well, that's what
Yeah,
I'm trying to get at.
I like what Kate said about making like a CEO. What's it? A CEO. I just call them the O's, because they all got an O in them. So when I talk about the O's, I just talk about all the O's: CEO, CDO, CIOs. I like what Kate said about having a very O's friendly dashboard. Like if you don't remediate this, it'll cost you XYZ. Yeah, if you don't remediate this, you'll get a fine from this. I mean, is that possible? Could Ortelius do that? Do we have enough of that information to be able to build a dashboard like that? Something very, I suppose that's I guess where engineers are crossing over into the business world to help business
Yeah.
go in the right direction, right? And align with business.
And also don't forget, I mean, they actually have to talk to the board, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you got to talk in non-tech. You got to talk business language, not like colons, dollars, and little brackets and things. Otherwise, you lose them long ago. Do we have enough of that information to be able to do something like that? I think it's quite cool. I think it would be a nice DevOps culture dashboard, right?
Right. I'll have to think. We have the data, we have so much data that's or we will. That's part of the catch 22 is making a non-technical view of that data available.
Yeah.
Because the CEO may not even know what, I guarantee you they won't know what a CVE stands for.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. He's not going to know what that means, he or she. But if you can put it in a way that they can understand their language, like the effects of not doing something about this. So translating it for them.
We do have to, I mean, we've been trying to do it literally for, I'd say for over a decade. We really do try to marry business with IT, right? I mean,
Yeah,
more.
it's so hard.
It is, it's really hard.
It's so hard. And I feel like it's getting worse, actually.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we got that. We got 1 minute left. Anybody else have I'll fill this out offline, the export data, folks. That's pretty obvious. Any other things? I think we got pretty much everything. The only one I don't monitor is compliance. Would that be a trend?
Or summary.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm kind of putting it, I'm thinking it's going to go into the summary.
It's like a machine learning exercise, right? Putting that kind of data together.
It can be, especially when you look at external. So an easy one, I think Raj put this in here with the data privacy. The other one is license conformance. Are you using GNU licenses or what you're licensing that you're consuming? So I think Kate's right on that it's more of a summary level than for that when you start doing that type of monitoring. And Sasha, that, like you said earlier, that could just be a color coding something.
Yeah. Maybe we could use color-coded aliens or other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make it more interesting.
Well, you have to have, for accessibility, they have to be different shapes as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
For people colorblind like me, red and green look the same, so everything's
you can't see my
always
pink shirt that I'm wearing.
Yeah, everything always is good on my front. We never have any problems.
Must be exciting going with you in the car. And it's red.
I'm just kidding. I can tell between red and green, but I am colorblind.
Sure. I was just checking, Steve. Just checking.
Alrighty. Anything else for today?
I have a personal question to you, Steve, Sasa, and Tony.
Okay.
Like the Nginx, Agent Proxy, and Traffic, they both are the competitors. So how did you decide like which tool to use out of these three?
I decided with Nginx because it uses to configure the reverse proxy is pretty easy. And we needed that for serving out to the microservices on the back end.
Okay, and that there is any other benefit of like other like Traffic or Agent Proxy that they are good from Nginx, or they both
Uh,
they all are equal?
you have to look into the goals that you're trying to achieve. So there are like you could even use Apache HTTPD as a front end as well. But all of those have different configuration parameters. So if you want to enable, for example, compression, they'll have built-in modules for compression. A lot of it gets around SEO and headers that you need to return back to SEO bots and stuff like that. They all
Got it.
they all do it, but they all do it in their own way. And sometimes what you're trying to achieve, it's easier with one than the other ones.
And for the ingress controllers,
For well, the ingress and controllers are usually managed by the cloud provider, and unless you're going to go with your own ingress, like was it F5 for your internal company, usually those are just configured through a website, which makes it handy versus configuration files.
okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anything else?
Not from my side.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, everybody. We made some good progress today.
Yeah, it was a good session. That's nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I have to think about our next step. I think we're pretty close. And we'll be able to, the trends and the patterns are starting to show up in what we need. So we're getting, I think from a UX perspective, we have some pretty good boxes that we can fit into. Put it that way.
We have to start doing the UX design stuff.
Yep. Yep. That's coming up next. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.